Yai, 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 Good Shabbos.
Bruchim Habayim, blessed is your coming into our shared sacred space. Wherever we put our attention, that becomes a collective space. And in that regard, wherever you are, as we're perhaps in your living room, in your kitchen, in your home, together we create a living Shabbat celebration. This week is Parshat Noah. It's the first week without a holiday. Last week, Parshat Bereshit still had Simchat Torah. So we're still emerging from the holidays and do so in celebration of Shabbat. As our service continues,
Yedi nefesh av harachaman mishoch avdach el ritzonach yarutz avdach kimo aya yishtachaveh muhadara ki yerev lo yedidutach minofet tzuf v'chotam Adonai ziv haolam nafshi cholat ahavatach Ana elna refanana behavot la lo hamziva az tichazek v'titrapeh והייתה לה שפחת עולם. ידעי Kabbalat Shabbat starts on page 11. Let's go sing to Adonai. Lechu niranina, lechu niranina, lechu niranina, Adonai. Lechu niranina, lechu niranina, lechu niranina, Adonai. Naria, Naria, Tzur Yishenu, Nekazma Fana Pitoda. Naria, Naria, Tzur Yishenu, Bizmirot Narialo, Lechu Niranina, Lechu Niranina, Lechu Niranina, Ladonai. Lechu niranina, lechu niranina, lechu niranina, Ladonai. Ki el gadol Adonai, melech gadol Adonai. Ki hu Eloheinu. Page 12 of the Martha. Arba'im Shana.
Arba'im Shana.
Akut Bido.
Akut Bido.
Va'omar. Am to'e levavhem.
Am to'e levavhem.
Ve'im lo yadu.
Ve'im lo yadu.
Dirachai.
Dirachai. Asher nishbati v'api. Im yirva'un el menuchati. Yai dai yai dai dai yai yai dai dai yai yai dai dai yai dai yai dai yai dai 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 yai dai yai dai yai yai dai dai yai dai 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 yai yai dai dai yai dai 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 yai dai Page 13. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai, Baruch Shemo, Basru, Miyom, Miyom, Yeshuato, Sapru Vagoyim, Kivodo, B'chol Hamim, Niflotav, Ki Gadol Adonai. O meu, no rahu, al kol Elohim, ki kol Elohim elilim, v'Adonai shamayim asa'ot v'hadav, lefanav, Avul Adonai, Mishpachot Amim, Avul Adonai, Kavod Va'od, Avul Adonai, Kevod Shemo, Seu Mincha, Uvo Lechatzrotai. ישתחוו לנו בהר הקודש, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים,
ותגל הארץ,
ותגל הארץ,
ירם הים,
רם הים,
ומלואו, ילוז שדי, וכל אשר בו, אז ירננו, כל עצי יער, לפני אדוני קיווה, קיווה לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק, ועמים באמונתו. Adonai malach tagil haaretz yismechu im rabbi ana va'arafel seviva tzedek mishpat lechol kiso es lefano telech ut lahem saviv tzarav heiru v'rakav tevel ra'ata v'tachel Page 16. Oh, zaru al tzadik ulishrelet simcha simchu tzadikim Adonai v'hodu lezecher kodsho. Page 17, sing to Adonai a new song, for Adonai has worked wonders. Adonai shir chadash ki niflaot asa. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash ki niflaot asa. Yair 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 Let's read in English together. If you have Lev Shalem, I'm on page 18 on the English side. Call out to Adonai, all the earth, break out in joyful singing. Sing to Adonai to the music of the guitar. Guitar and voices making music together. With horns and shofar cries, trumpet the presence of the sovereign Adonai. Let the sea and all that is in it roar, the earth and all who inhabit it thunder. Let rivers clap hands, while mountains sing in harmony, greeting Adonai who comes to judge the earth, judging the world with justice and the nations with truth. Lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz yishpot tevel b'tzedek v'yamim meisharim. Page 20. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehakodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehakodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu להקודשו רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להקודשו כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו. Page 21. מזמור לדוד. הבו לאדוני בנאלים, הבו לאדוני כבוד ועוז, הבו לאדוני כבוד שמו, השתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש, כל אדוני על המים, אל הכבוד הרים, אדוני על מים רבים, כל אדוני בכוח, כל אדוני בהדר, כל אדוני שבר ארזים, וישבר אדוני את ארזי הבנון, ויקידם כמו עגל לבנון, וסריון כמו בן רמים, כבוד בן רמים. כל אדוני חוצה להבות אש, כל אדוני יכיל מדבר, יכיל אדוני מדבר קדש, כל אדוני חולל עגלות, ויחסוף יעבור ובהיכלו כולו אומר כבוד, כולו אומר כבוד. אדוני למה בו ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יבורך את עמו בשלום. Which brings us to welcoming the Shabbos bride.
But as you get there,
yes,
as
Rabbi.
you get there, only because you just sang about Lamabul Yashav, and that on this Shabbat of Shabbat Noach grabbed my attention. It says that God dwelled above the flood. And there's a footnote in that page, on page 21. This is Psalm 29, an allusion either to the primal waters of creation or to the flood in the time of Noah. In the first understanding, this line continues the thought introduced at the beginning of the psalm, that God is above the waters, that God has power over the waters that form the great mass of earth. In the second interpretation, which is this week's Torah reading, the theme of God's judgment of sin is now introduced to the psalm. All right, a little reference to our Parsha as you continue.
Page 23. Lechadodi lekrakala yavabai 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 b'nei Shabbat mikavla. Lechadodi lekrakala yavabai 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 b'nei Shabbat mikavla. Shamor v'tzachon v'dibor echad השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, שם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך טוב, לך kala, yababai, pnei Shabbat mikabela. Ay, lichato, likrakala, yababai, pnei Shabbat mikabela. Likrat Shabbat lecho v'necha, ki מקור הברכה מראש מקדם ניסוך סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה עליך לקרקלה יבבי פני שבת מקבלה עליך לקרקלה יבבי פני שבת מקבלה מקדש מלך ימלוכה כל מצאים מתוך הפכה רב לך שווה במגבך והוא יחמו עלייך חמלה לכתוב לקרקלה יבבי פני שבת מקבלה לכתוב לקרקלה יבבי פני שבת מקבלה. Page 25. לכתובי לקראת קהלה פני שבת מקבלה לכתובי לקראת קהלה פני שבת מקבלה והיו ימשול סוסייך ורחקו כל מבולייך יוסיסו לייך אלוהי כיסוס חתן על גלה לכתובי לקראת קהלה פני שבת מקבלה לכתובי לקראת קהלה פני שבת מקבלה יום נרשמו תפרוצי ורחקו והריצי על ידי בן פרצי ונשמחה ונהגילה לכתובי לקראת קהלה פני שבת מקבלה לכתובי לקהלה פני שבת מקבלה. We rise to greet the Shabbos bride at the doorway. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה לכתובי לקראת קהלה פני שבת מקבלה לכתובי לקראת קהלה פני שבת מקבלה Having greeted the Shabbos bride, we sing our psalm for Shabbat, page 27. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. להגיד בבוקר חסדיך ומונחה בלילות עלי עשור ועלי נבר עלי קיום בכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך ארנה. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. צדיק אתה יפרח יפרח, צדיק אתה יפרח, צדיק אתה יפרח יפרח, צדיק אתה יפרח. כארץ בלבנון נזכה, כארץ בלבנון נזכה, כארץ בלבנון נזכה יזכה. כארץ בלבנון נזכה, כארץ בלבנון נזכה, כארץ בלבנון יזכה, יזכה. עדותיך נאמנו מאוד, לביתך נא בקודש אדוני לאורך ימים. Kabbalat Shabbat. Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 30 in Lev Shalem. Those in mourning or observing a yard site, please join me. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yalmad divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala v'zman kariv yimeru.
Amen.
Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach v'olam u'olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei dekudusha
Barichu.
Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'yolma v'yimaru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemayim v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimaru. Amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yal kol yoshvei tevel yimaru. Amen. Rabbi Spitz, our teacher.
Thank you, Carl. So our Parsha this week is Parshat Noach. My teacher and friend, Rabbi Larry Kushner, says that a way to think of these early stories of the Bible is a bit like a dream. And as a dream is a window into our unconscious, into our deeper sources of motivation, so likewise, these stories are profoundly reflective of our collective mindset as an ancient people. Parsha Noach has, of course, the story of Noah, the one righteous man in his generation, who God calls to build an ark, for a flood is coming to destroy. And Noah goes into the ark with 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Yafet. I want to focus in on a piece of that story that you may not know, but that has a very important part of American slavery. So first let me teach you the text, and then I'll tell you how this links to American slavery. This is chapter 9, verse 18. The sons of Noah who came out of the ark, now they're emerging. Shem, Ham, and Yafet. Ham being the father of Canaan. These 3 were the sons of Noah. From these the whole world branched out. Noah, the tiller of the soil, was first to plant a vineyard. He drank of the wine and became drunk. And he uncovered himself within his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness and told his two brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a cloth, placed it against both their backs, and walking backward, they covered their father's nakedness. Their faces were turned the other way so that they did not see their father's nakedness. When Noah woke from his wine and learned what his youngest son had done to him, he said, Arur Canaan, cursed be Canaan, the lowest of slaves shall be to his brothers. And he said, Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem. Let Canaan be a slave to them. May God enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be a slave to them. Noah lived after the flood 350 years, and all the days of Noah came to 950 years. Then he died. And now just a little bit more. The descendants of Ham. This is now chapter 10, the next chapter, verse 8. Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan. And then it'll continue with their descendants. So here's how it links to American slavery. Cursed be Canaan, the lowest of slaves shall he be to his brothers. Cush, in the Bible, is Ethiopia. It's black people. Mitzrayim, North Africa. Put, I'm not exactly sure where Put is. And Canaan, that's the land of Israel. The first time I ever heard this link to slavery, I was a guest as a senior rabbinical school student at the largest African American seminary in the country, which is in Atlanta. And one of the professors, in meeting us rabbinical school students, said, it's because of your teachings, we Jewish teachings, of Ham being black, that slavery was justified. Well, in all my years as a Jew growing up, or in my years even in seminary, I had never heard the link or even the teaching of slavery being justified out of the Bible. But in fact, it is there. But it's there obliquely. For most of us who don't live in a time of slavery, all the more so. But in the Talmud, in Sanhedrin 108a, it's traditional mode to cite pages. I looked it up just before. It says that Ham violated the agreement on the ark not to have physical intimacy with his wife. And he did. And there were only two other, according to the Talmud, species, a crow and a dog, who engaged in sex on the ark. And they were each punished. And the punishment for Ham is that his skin was changed. It doesn't say in the Talmud how it was changed, and it's in the same sentence as the crow and as a dog. But then the commentaries later will add that his skin turned black and that his first son, Cush, which is identified in the Bible as Ethiopia, as black people, was the offspring of that physical intimacy on the boat. Okay, so that's a little bit of the Jewish history in terms of the Bible story. Cursed be Ham. It's obscure what he did to observe his father's nakedness, and it's actually not cursed be Ham, but cursed be Canaan, who is the son of Ham, and not necessarily the black son. That's the son living in Israel, maybe the brown son. But it became in America, this text, a justification for slavery of Africans. I'm reading Isabel Wilkerson's powerful book called Caste, in which she examines how in America Africans were brought over as slaves, and even when they were liberated, they remained and remain as if a lower caste. Her analogy in that powerful book, which is changing how I see race relations, is to India, where the Dalits, the current name for the untouchables, are dealt with as by birth, lower on the social totem pole. And in her book, Isabel Wilkerson will say that it is how Jews were treated in Germany as born of a lower race, a lower caste, and as she points out, many of the rules for how the Third Reich treated Jews, the laws that Jews were not allowed to be married to an Aryan, to have physical intimacy with an Aryan, to hold certain public positions, were to a great degree taken from the laws of America South. And in her book, she describes the details of how these passages that we just shared from our Torah reading tomorrow were used by the church in the South, the antebellum, the pre-Civil War South, to say it is God's decree that the children of Ham are cursed, of Ham are cursed, and they are to be the slaves, and they are the people of Africa. And so to pull this together, because of the limitation of time, as we read the story of Noah tomorrow, for many of us, we read it as not necessarily history, but we read it as a tale in which the lesson is, not unlike that psalm, that God is a God of justice, and that when people act corruptly, God is the parent, cares, punished, brought a flood, and then declared, I'll never bring a flood again. That's God of morality. How we understand these passages, frankly, in the Jewish tradition, I am unaware of having used to be justification for slavery. And yet, they were so used. And yet, there was such a discussion in the Talmud that had racial overtones. What we read is dreamlike. It is part of an interiority of our people that requires interpretation. And it's the interpretations of a dream that define its significance to the one who tells the tale. Ribono Shalom, Master of the universe, may we know that God is good, and may the lens that we bring to our reading of Torah be one that honors the dignity of every person. For two, the lens the Torah provides us is that every person is created in the image of God. And in that light, may we know that every person has the potential for good or for bad, that every person deserves the dignity of being an expression of God's creation. May we know that slavery is unjustified. Amen.
Amen. Our call to prayer, found on page 39A. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vohed.
Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vahed.
Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk.
Umavir yom mevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamari v'aravim.
Amen.
Page 40. Avat olam Bet Yisrael Amecha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu B'shochveinu u'v'kumeinu Nasiach bechukecha V'nizmach b'divrei Toratecha U'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu v'yorech yameinu U'vahem nege yomam v'layla V'avatecha al tasir mimenu li'olamim Baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Hu Shemo.
Ohev amo Yisrael.
Amen.
41. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha V'chol levavecha V'chol nafshecha V'chol meodecha V'hayu hadvarim ha'ela Asher anochi mitzavecha Hayom alevavecha V'shinantam levanecha V'dibarta bam V'shivtecha b'veitecha Uvlechtecha v'aderech Uv'shachbecha v'kumecha Uv'shartam le'od al yadecha V'hayu letotafot b'ninecha Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha U'visharecha
42 privately. Vayim Shemot Yishma'u. El mitzvotay shenu mitzvotchem lo b'chol v'chol nafshechem. Atem toisechem etam aposh.
Adonai Elohechem Amen. Let's turn to page 43b and 44 as we read together in English. You proclaimed the covenant on the seventh day. You declared it and decreed it. We listened and heard it. You loved this day we inherited, delighting in its remembrance, and began its command with the word, remember, Zachor. From the time you bestowed it, joy filled the hearts of Jeshurun, the people you redeemed, securing the cause of righteousness. You exalted Shabbat as a sign between us forever. In 6 days your world was formed, on the seventh day you rested, and on this day Israel, your people, rest.
To honor your name, they sing songs of praise to the one deserving of praise, willingly accepting God's sovereignty. Then Moses, Miriam, and the people Israel joyfully sang to you.
Who is like you, Adonai, among the mighty? Who is like you, adorned in holiness,
revered in praise, working wonders?
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. מלכותך רב ענך בוקר ים לפני משה, זה אלינו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך הוא שמו.
גל ישראל. Page 45. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom V'hamidenu Malkeinu L'Chaim. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom V'hamidenu Malkeinu L'Chaim. Ushmo Tzetenu לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Baruch atah Adonai הפורץ סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים ועל כל יושבי תבל. We rise, page 46. ושמרו בני ישראל השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. בין ובין בני ישראל עוד היא לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
אמן.
ויאמר דברי קירותי וימליך מלכותי,
בחיי חורף יומך ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב.
ויאמרו
אמן.
יהי
שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ועולמי עלמיה יתברך.
יתברך וישתבח, יתבהר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר, ויתעלה ויתעלה, שמר קודשה
בריחו
לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה,
תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמה.
ויאמרו
Amen. We will now chant our private Amidah, pages 47 to 52. During this time of quiet, I invite you to feel the goodness of freedom. Verses 47 to 52.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. ואמרו אמן.
Page 53.
ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויכול אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. Page 54. יתקדש ויתקדש שמי רבה, ביום דברי קיותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלו בזמן קריב ויאמרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבו מבורך, לעולם לעולמי עלמיא, יברך ויתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקודשה ברכו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ויאמרו, אמן. תתקבל צלותם אבות הון דכל ישראל, קדם אבוהון דבשמיא ויאמרו, אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו, אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ויאמרו, אמן.
You know, Carl, as we get ready to bless our children, it is 4 weeks since we blessed our children together, at least you and I. That last Shabbat, Linda and I were able to get away, my first Shabbat away in 6 months, and the 2 previous Shabbatot were Sukkot, where we weren't doing Kiddush because traditionally you do Kiddush in the Sukkah,
Right.
so we didn't have a context to bless our children, which makes this opportunity
Oh, sweeter.
sweeter. So page 75, it's traditional on Friday night around the family table, or in this case in synagogue, as is our custom, to bless our children.
For boys, we say, Yisimcha Elohim ki Ephraim v'chi Menashe. May God make you like Ephraim and Menashe, loving brothers.
And we say of daughters, may you be like the matriarchs, Yisimech Elohim Kasar, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. And then the priestly blessings taken from Numbers, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha, v'yasem lecha shalom. And we say, Amen. And now, Kiddush. Savri, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'hava uv'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'mahaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikrahei kodesh Zecher letziat Mitzrayim ki vanu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha v'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. Aleinu is found on page 56. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, lateit gedula liyotzeh breshid, shelo asanu kogeh haratzon, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגאור עלינו ככל המונה. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, משה ויקרו בשמיים עמה, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומי. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים עמה ויארץ מתחת אין עוד וחיינו אלוהינו הכתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני מלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
We observe a number of yurtzites this week. Among them are as follows: Joshua Liebenson, Sherry Ezra, Helen Elkanah Rostov, Laser Cohen, Morris Moshe Messi, Martin Asterbaum, Irving Berkowitz, Paul Fisher, Rabbi Stephen Tucker, Gertrude Mazeritz, Thomas Mice, Dr. Harvey Goodman, Sarah Shankman, Uri Meyer Jacobs, Jacob Doctorow, Hyman Morris Lazar, Joseph Malloy, Celia Berger, David Garfield, and Mildred Malka Manasseh. I invite those observing a yurtzeit or who are in mourning to join together to honor loved ones. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah. V'yalma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael b'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen Yehei shmei rabba mevorach le'olam olmei olmaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha barichu le'la min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran b'yoma v'imru amen Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'imru amen Osei shalom b'mromav v'yaseh shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. I wanted to acknowledge a few anniversaries tonight because we do this long list of yurtzites, which is important, but it's also nice to celebrate life. And in that regard, I want to acknowledge 4 anniversaries this coming week. Edith and Robert Messi celebrating their 67th wedding anniversary. And they are still doing great. Shauna and Daniel Schwartz, Natalie and Michael Vishny, and Leslie and Bruce White. And I believe I did that wedding 25 years ago. So to each of you, a mazal tov on your wedding anniversaries. There's services tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock with Amy Robinson Katz joining me on the Bima. Parshat Noach school, our religious school, is back in session as of last week. If you know of Jewish children who want to be engaged with religious learning, our principal who was here last Shabbat Rabbi Robin Foomberg is worth knowing and calling. And sixth grade, for instance, this week we'll be having an activity outdoors, one of our in-person activities.
Wonderful.
So there's a lot going on in the religious school. I'm teaching Psalms again, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week at 9 o'clock. And Community Scholar Program is doing something quite remarkable. We were to have been in Israel this last week and next week as a congregation in a joint trip with the Community Scholar Program, which is created by Ari Katz and so magnificently programmed. There will be a shared trip to Israel of CBI and CSP. For more information on that, contact me or contact Ari Katz, occsp.org, to listen to those lectures next week. We have classes of our own. Look at our website, cbi18.org, for those opportunities. Anything else before we close?
No,
Carl?
I just wanted to I just wanted to thank Ari Katz for curating that everything he does for our Jewish community. I tuned into this week's, maybe it was last Sunday, I was teaching Hebrew school, but Ruth Calderon was speaking, and I watched that after the fact. I watched a recording of it, and she's just fantastic.
She's the real
if you have a
deal.
chance, watch Ruth Calderon on CSP.
You know, the introduction that I wanted to do for her was, just because we're talking about Ruth Calderon, we're going to include in a moment, but she is one of those examples of what Ari Katz is doing with this series and what the trip enables, meeting remarkable people. Here's an example of one of those, Ruth Calderon. Her father was from Bulgaria. Her mother was from Germany, which is to say her father was Sephardic, her mother was Ashkenazic, and she went to a Shomer Tzair youth group, which is the socialist, communist youth group, deeply Chiloni. In the old days, Shomer Tzair, in the early days of Israel, continued. Those are the ones who on Yom Kippur would eat dafka. You know, they were so non-religious. And she would go on, having been in America and seen non-Orthodox synagogue life, she said, you know, I was always non-religious, but this has meaning to me and I want to know it better. And she went on to get a PhD in Talmud from Hebrew University as it's hard to define her, as a traditionally exploring Jewish woman, and went on to become a member of the Knesset. And in her opening 10 minutes that every new member of the Knesset gets to introduce themselves, she taught Talmud. And it's worth watching on YouTube to see the faces of the religious party members seeing a woman teach Talmud as a member of their body. So in sum, Ruth Calderon, that's a lecture I also listened to last week, represents kind of like fusion food, you know, where you bring together different flavors, and somehow when you bring it all together, it's its own thing, and it's remarkable. And that is the gift of Israel.
We send blessings to your Shabbos table. May the good angel outweigh the bad angel. The two angels that come to visit your home on Erev Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaShaarei, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Borechem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu Nil Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzechem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yai-rai-rai, yai-rai, yai-rai, yai-rai-rai, 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 yai-rai-rai.
Thank you, Carl.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Enjoy your families, enjoy your dinners. Have a restful Shabbat.